Restaurant workers, what's the worst thing you've seen done to a customer's order? Tampering with food is not that common. I've been in the business a long time and only worked with one girl who spat in someone's food. Another server saw her and she got reported and fired immediately. The only other thing that sometimes happens is when people get arrogant and ask for extremely spicy food, the kitchen staff turns into evil geniuses. A guy once asked me for wings so spicy that they would give a woman a miscarriage. I relayed those lovely instructions to the kitchen, and I don't know what they did, but the sauce was burning my nose and making my eyes water as I carried it out. He was not able to finish his wings. I bet he thought he was having a miscarriage himself when he went to the restroom later on. Oh, and before I forget, other me's over at Rufus Stories doing what he does best, unpacking some crazy relationship stories. It's a good time, I promise. Links in the description if you're down. All right, back to the stories. Story 2. Some Indian guys came in one time and asked us to make their food as spicy as possible. I told them that's going to be extremely spicy and wanted to make sure they knew what they were asking for. They went on a long rant about how Indian restaurants are the only places that actually know what spicy is, and anything we bring out isn't going to be close to how spicy they like their food. So I had the owner come over to tell them that we'll try our best, but there won't be any refund on this food if it's too spicy. So we made them chicken fried rice with Trinidad scorpion peppers. After 2 bites and about 10 glasses of soy milk later, they ordered something else. Story 3. I worked at a popular fast food chain in my younger years. It was my first time closing shifts, and we were all doing our part to clean and prep the store. I see this lady with a mop and bucket come out of the back, slop it onto the griddle, and start mopping it. I was appalled. I went and told the manager, and she told me, well, that's the quickest way to clean it, then scolded me for worrying about things that didn't concern me. I quit that job the next day and then called the district office and told them what happened. That location closed down not long after, but the franchise still exists. Story 4. Worked in a deli for a few years. I never tampered with anyone's food, but if you were a schmuck, I guaranteed your bread was over-toasted, the lettuce on your sandwich was wilted, the tomato was the butt end with a hole from us removing the core, your onions were little pieces, the meat was the smallest of the portions, and on and on and on. I wouldn't tamper with someone's food, but I damn well wasn't making them a good sandwich. And all of that goes the exact opposite way with customers I liked, always giving them the best product to the point they would wait for me to help them. Story 5. Worked in a fast food pizza joint. Nothing happened without the customer's consent, but customers asked for some really weird stuff. One time, a customer asked for extra chili and emphasized a lot, so of course we put a lot on it. Another person wanted chicken legs and wanted them extra crisp. He kept sending them back until they were pretty much burned, which is when he found them perfect. The worst one was a woman who asked to put her pasta in a blender because she had just gotten prosthetics and couldn't properly eat. It looked disgusting. Story 6. I gave them what they ordered. We were a pizza/Italian/bar restaurant. Our menu was ludicrously large, and essentially anything on the menu that could go on a pizza was listed as a topping, probably 40, 50 choices. I would get asked pretty often for a pizza with everything on it. I had a usual joke or two to find out what they really wanted. Typically, it was a deluxe, but then they'd want no black olives or whatever, no big deal. Until the schmuck that came in ordered everything and then proceeded to ask if I was stupid when I questioned him. My sister has disabilities, so I didn't appreciate his tact. I told my boss about it, and he smiled and said, get him a pizza with everything. I brought it out and gave it to him. He flipped out and demanded the manager, of course. My manager had my back and gave the guy his bill, which at $2 a topping was well over $100 pizza. The guy refused to pay, cops got called, yada yada yada. I hope he enjoyed his pizza with clams, pineapple, buffalo chicken, broccoli, anchovies, green olives, cream cheese, cauliflower, jalapenos, shrimp. Story 7. One time, we had a woman call back because her rotisserie chicken was burnt. I explained it was just charred because of the way it's cooked, but she wasn't having it, so we agreed to get her a new one. 10 minutes after her husband left, she called back, even more angry, saying this one was worse. We told her to send her husband back again for a new one. The manager and I went in back with gloves on and scraped off all the burnt parts. I kid you not, another 10 minutes after he leaves, she calls again, but this time her rice didn't have any craisins on it. So once again, I tell her to send him back. I dumped so many freaking craisins on that rice, I think she got the point and we never heard from or saw them again. I know it's not super gross, but it's pretty rare to see someone maliciously mess with someone's food. I've seen cooks use the 5-second rule when dropping food or not washing hands, but that's about it in my 7 years in the industry. Story 8. I worked at a pizza joint in high school. The owners of the pizza place also had a woodworking business on the side. They always gave this one nasty prick worker of theirs a 75% discount anytime he came into the pizza store. That's fine, no problem. However, he'd always come in at like 9:55 p.m. when we closed at 10. Without fail, it was right when we finished cleaning everything. This would happen 2 or 3 times during the week. He knew exactly what he was doing because he was just a massive schmuck like that. It was always a big order, maybe a burger, some broasted chicken, and a pizza, so everything got dirty. To top it off, he'd just sit there and eat the burger and some chicken and take the pizza home. That meant we had to wait for him to finish and wait on him as we had a strict nobody closes alone policy. So 2 of the 3 of us would be stuck there. And we couldn't close early or lock the doors because he saw the owners every day from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the woodworking business, and he'd 100% rat us out. After a couple of months of this, the store manager finally got sick of it, took the buns, put them down, and let them sit there for a few minutes until his burger was done. Story 9. There's this lady and her daughter who would come into my restaurant. Every time I've served them, they make you run, "We need more ranch, I want another margarita, extra ketchup, etc., etc., etc." My favorite was a time when I asked if they wanted ranch with their wings. Nope. And they literally, as soon as I brought the wings, "Oh, and we need ranch." And they never tip, or if they do, it's insultingly low. Like once the tab was $48.50, and they gave me a 50. I brought the change back, and the daughter, who is in her mid-20s, smirks and says, "Oh no, that's for you, sweetie." I left it there and walked away without a word. Now, whenever they come in, they just take forever to get served, and their margaritas, that they drink like water, mostly because they may as well be, are probably about half strength compared to what everyone else who doesn't act like schmucks towards the staff gets. Their food sits under the heat lamps getting stale for a while. The kitchen is aware of this and the reason for it, and they're on board since these customers send food back all the time claiming it's wrong even though it was made exactly to order. And of course, they always wait until it's more than half eaten to complain. I genuinely cannot stand them. The younger one always just smirks when she orders things like she thinks you're such a plebe for being a server. If patience is a virtue, then serving these two must make you a saint, a very, very exasperated saint. Story 10. I've been a server and bartender for almost 15 years, and I have literally never seen food be tampered with maliciously. This is taken very seriously by every chef I've ever worked for. To further illustrate this, I have also never seen a chef or cook wear gloves while handling food because that's seen as unprofessional and childish. Chefs think of it along the lines of latex and PVC gloves are for children who can't be trusted to run a clean station unsupervised. If you give the tiniest inkling that your workstation is unsanitary or you don't constantly wash your hands, you would be immediately fired. Granted, I worked for more upscale places, but service workers past a certain age and in these environments consider themselves to be professionals. And honestly, anyone who tells you serving and smiling at people who treat you like crap or working a 12-hour shift in a 115-degree kitchen with breaks, if and when you have time, is unskilled labor has probably never done any real labor in their life. Story 11. It's not really that bad, but lots of restaurants are guilty of this. The little date/day or timestamp stickers on wrappers and salads. Look closely next time. If there's one stuck on top of another, or if there's more than one mark on the wrapper, your food has probably expired. Sometimes this is done because the food is actually still good and it's a shame to waste it. Other times, it's a lazy worker who doesn't want to make more food or a greedy owner who doesn't want to lose 3 cents. The type of stickers and labels vary by restaurant. Some timestamps look like talks, and some are a line of numbers 1 through 12, with a mark through the 1 where the item expires. For example, if your sandwich has a mark through the 11 and it's now 3 o'clock, your sandwich expired 5 minutes ago, but honestly, it's probably still good. Check your timestamps, people. Story 12. I've only worked in an open kitchen where customers can see the cooks and at a local 5-star restaurant with a locally well-known executive chef. The worst I've seen at the 5-star restaurant was a parsley leaf fall off a steak as a waiter picked up the plate to serve it. He went to walk out the door and the sous chef grabbed him by the shoulder and scolded him in front of the kitchen. At a nice restaurant, everything is taken very seriously, and a chef isn't going to let some high school or college kid do anything to ruin their business. Your service should be good, the atmosphere should be good, the clientele surrounding you should be good, the food's presentation should be good, and the food should taste good. It is very unlikely that your food will be messed with if you go to a place with a professionally trained chef, or even at a local small business where the owner has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into their dream. Story 13. So I've been a cook/lead/chef for like 10 to 11 years now, and unfortunately it was me who did the sabotage. We had a team of people who would cook for all of the employees. We would have 4 to 6 main dishes laid out with 3 veggie options and a few more savory sides. We had a whole salad bar, soup, and drink area. We also provided a menu with set sandwiches. This woman was not starving. There were so many options for her to choose from, and it only cost $2 to eat, even though many people never swiped their cards, including her. I didn't work in the employee dining area daily, but occasionally I'd be out there if we had call offs. However, I would have to go through that dining area daily to check up on things. Pretty much every day, one of the cooks would have a complaint, and it was always about this same lady. She would complain about everything. She even made several of the workers cry because of what she would say to them. Some examples: she would drag HR into the line to complain, and she would scold the kitchen staff. This lady would bring her department coworkers, this was a big establishment, and talk so much crap about the cook right to their face, trying to get her coworkers to do the same. For example, some things she would say were, "You're a witch and should be fired. I hate you. Screw you, you piece of crap. This food sucks. You should not be a cook. Go and screw yourself. I'm not paying for this. I can do a better job than y'all. There's nothing to eat but the same crap. Screw this," and so on and so on and so on. It was never ending with her, and before anyone says anything, we did try our best. We would accommodate her every whim. I even saw a few of the cooks and chefs swipe their card for her to pay for her food, hoping that it would make it better. Nope. The cooks would talk to the chef, and nothing would ever be resolved. Well, one day I was working out in the dining room, and here she comes in. She was up to her same crap, downgrading the food without even trying it. She started to complain to me about there being no lemon wedges for her ice water. I told her we don't ever have lemon wedges out there for team members to use. Well, she did not like that answer and kicked up such a fuss about it that she dragged my head executive chef out on the floor to complain. I ended up having to get her a lemon wedge, and when I finished cutting it for her, I wiped it around the rim of the trash can in the back and handed it to her. I feel a little bit guilty to this day, but screw that witch. Story 14. I saw it happen because I did it. It was an event dinner with a large team of waitstaff, something like 20 plus waitstaff, not including floor managers. We were broken down into teams of 5 or 6, each carrying 2 plates off the pass to their tables, then going back for the next slot. Our placement of plates on the table was meant to be synchronized, so our team leader would check everyone was in the right position before giving the nod for us to put our plates down. The problem was, the plates were hot, and the longer it took for everyone to get to their spot, the heavier they felt. So the long and short of it was, I was standing there holding some hot plates with only a napkin to protect my hand from getting burnt, waiting for the last person on our team to get their act together. The plate started to tip, and the gravy pooled up near the rim and spilled over onto the back of one of the guests' suits. He looked up at me with a rightful look of, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like a rabbit in the headlights. I apologized profusely and offered him the napkins I was holding in my hands. He half-jokingly remarked, "I'd rather be eating my food, not wearing it," but by this point my team, oblivious to what was happening, was already on the way back to the kitchen to grab the next lot of plates. I had to run off to catch up with them. In retrospect, I should have done more to sort this dude's suit out, but at the time, I was between a rock and a hard place, as my team just wanted to check on with service, and holding that up would have caused more problems. There were floor managers nearby to sort any issues out, so I guess if it was that much of a big deal, he would have taken it up with one of them. Aside from that, no one intentionally messed with customer food. One chef was being a schmuck and not giving one of the guests a veggie main course, but that was for a wedding, and one of the guests had changed their mind. Not really the done thing, but as waiting staff, we had to take the crap from the guest in question and the chef. I should add that the event with the gravy spill had about a 2,000 capacity, with each table seating 10 people. We had to run 3 courses, including clearing plates, in which you were expected to grab anywhere between 5 and 10 plates, with men being expected to carry more, and a wine and water top-up between main and dessert. It all had to be done in about an hour and a half, as the event was on a pretty tight schedule. Story 15. Tampering with someone's food is a serious offense. In almost all jurisdictions, it's a crime, and in some places, it's even a felony. If you're caught, you'll not only face criminal charges, but your former employer and the customer can also bring a civil suit against you. It doesn't matter if you think the person quote-unquote deserves it. A woman waiting tables in my city messed with the food of her ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend. Another employee saw her do it and reported it to the boss, who then reported it to the Department of Health. The Department of Health reported it to the district attorney's office, who subpoenaed the CCTV footage and indicted her. She was convicted and sentenced to 36 months in prison and was paroled after 12 months. However, the felony conviction has to be disclosed for every job she applies for. She also lost her eligibility for financial aid and was disenrolled from her school. She went to a colleague of mine for help applying for an expungement, and she paid dearly for that. Fortunately, no civil actions were brought against her. Don't do it. It can mess up your entire life. Not only are there potential fairly harsh criminal penalties, but civil judgments don't go away. Let's say you mess with someone's food and you get caught. That person has to go to the hospital and be tested for all kinds of illnesses they could have been exposed to. The court is going to award them the cost of those tests, time they miss from work to take the tests, and any other associated expenses, travel, etc. Those costs won't be the mitigated costs after insurance is applied. You'll pay the full cost of all the lab work, and that could run into several $1,000s. The restaurant itself can bring suit against you for jeopardizing their licensure with the health department, along with any damage to their reputation resulting from publicity. When the plaintiffs obtain these judgments, they're more or less permanent. Since they stem from the commission of a crime, adversary procedure will likely judge the debts to be non-dischargeable, meaning even bankruptcy cannot clear them away. It all comes down to how vindictive someone wants to be about it. For me, if you mess with my food, I won't stop until I've exhausted every possible avenue of punishment, not just for myself, but as a message to every other restaurant employee in the area. If you misuse the trust inherent in your position, I will misuse the function of my occupation too, and it's going to be way worse than messing with a taco. Story 16. This guy wanted his cheeseburger with extra grease. The best way to do that, cook it, and as soon as it's done, slap it right on the bun, no draining off the excess grease. So I did just that. The guy sent it back saying, not greasy enough, a little more grease. So this time I did the same thing, except I scooped my spatula in the extra juice around the burger as it just finished cooking. I slapped on the top bun and this thing was getting quite soggy. Again, this guy sent it back, and now I was just getting irritated because I was starting to fall behind. I slapped the burger on the grill, and as the patty finished, I sopped the bun in the grease until it began to fall apart and spooned on as much accumulated grease as possible. This monstrosity, the burger was a sloppy, soggy mess of artery-clogging grease. And to top it off, I took the last remaining grease and put it in a cup and sent it out. The guy loved it, asked to see me personally, thanked me, and thought the extra cup of grease was absolutely ingenious. The customer is always right, I guess? Yikes, I'm surprised he didn't ask for a straw for the extra cup of grease, right? Story 17. I'm amazed to hear so many people say they never saw anyone's food get messed with. When I was in high school, I worked at a really nice high-end restaurant. I saw food get rubbed on the floor, get messed with, and the worst was the owner's daughter's steak getting messed with. It only happened to the worst of the worst customers, but it did happen at least 2 or 3 times a year that I saw. I had a hard time eating out for many years after 4 years at that job. A couple of other fun things at that job, pretty much everything was made fresh in the restaurant, so croutons were made from all the uneaten partial loaves of bread that had been served with meals and weren't finished. All the salad dressing was made fresh, and it was the dishwasher's job to make them. The dishwashers would combine all the ingredients and then just use their unwashed hands to mix everything up, as in stick their hands into it. Employees used the freezer as a bathroom on occasion, as it was insanely busy at times, and you weren't allowed to take bathroom breaks when the owners were on the premises. There's more, but that gives you a good taste of what it was like there. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 18. I was a server in a bowling alley with really high ceilings. I was cleaning baskets and plates from another table and quickly throwing trash into the garbage. I threw a half-empty cup of ranch dressing into the bin. It bounced, sending at least 2 ounces of ranch dressing into the air and all over the back and hair of a very large guest who was being a jerk to myself and other staff. I quickly looked around to see if anyone else saw. No one did. When his wife returned from the bathroom, she noticed the dressing all over him and said, "I think a bird pooped on you." I went along with the story and explained we had a bird in the alley somewhere. They thought it was hilarious and ended up tipping me 100% of the bill for helping them clean up. Story 19. Oh, yes, my time has come to share my story. I worked at a higher-end restaurant for a few years. On a Sunday, in December, we were getting our backs handed to us. I was behind the bar with another girl and we were just drowning, and so was everyone else. The bar server was venting to us about her table of Karens and how awful they'd been to her. One of them ordered her second old-fashioned. The orange peel garnish fell while the server was garnishing it. I informed her I needed her to grab an orange out of the walk-in as that was my last one. She said she didn't give a crap, she was too busy. So she dropped the drink to her without one and the woman says, "Oh, no orange peel this time? Nice job." And she has absolutely had it with this table. She walks over to the service bar with a deranged, scary smile on her face and says she'll be right back with an orange for us, and then asks for the peeler itself. At that point, I knew she was going to do something with that peel. She comes out, gives us the rest of the orange minus 1 peel that she peeled privately in the walk-in so no one could see, and drops off this witch's peel. She came back with the most relaxed, happy smile. I asked her, "Girl, what the heck did you do to it?" She smiled the entire time she told me the story. She peeled the orange and put it in her mouth, then she dropped it in the floor of the walk-in for good measure. Story 20. I worked with one guy who had no problem tampering with food. I'm sure he did more than the following, but these are the ones I witnessed. One day, a pair of customers came in, were giant pains in the bum, and then tipped an insulting 10 cents on the ticket. They had the audacity to come in the very next lunch service, and you better believe he messed with their food. The other two instances were bad because they were random and lazy. Once, he dropped a steak on the disgusting kitchen floor, just dusted it off with his hand and slapped it back on the plate. Another time, he dropped some steamed crab legs into the disgusting water underneath the tray holding the condiments, and he shook off the excess water and placed them on the plate. Unfortunately, I was a new girl when this was happening, so I didn't feel I could speak out. No one else at the restaurant did stuff like this. Generally, as long as you're polite to the server, you don't have to worry about them messing with your food. Even if you have to return a plate to the kitchen, that's totally fine. I'd rather you enjoy your food and get your correct order, as long as you're not a rude schmuck about it. That guy left the restaurant industry and he's a cop now. Story 21. It's not really bad, but it still makes me chuckle thinking back. My first job in high school was at a fast food franchise in a very small town where you'd know many of the people who came through. Whenever a girl came through that this particular female worker didn't like, she would do whatever she could to increase the caloric count of the order. If the item had mayo, she'd say, put extra mayo. If the order had fries, put extra fries, a larger soda, ice cream, extra cheese, etc., in an attempt to make them just a little bit fatter out of spite. It was hilarious to witness this ritual. Cindy, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well. Story 22. I worked at an ice cream shop for a while. There are two incidents that stick out. First, a man was apparently incredibly rude to a girl. We were all 15, 16 years old. So when she went back to make his blizzard-esque ice cream treat, she scraped all the caked-on stuff from the past 6 months off the bottom of her shoe into his dessert before blending it and giving it to him. She got caught on camera and fired. Second, I will admit, was me. I was working the counter where we sent out food, just yelling order numbers and handing the items to whoever walked up. I did not take the order, but I had the ticket. I called out an order, and a man walked up and grabbed the items. He went to his table 7 feet away. This was a very, very small shop. Not 2 minutes later, a very angry woman stormed up, very upset, saying I forgot one of her chili dogs. I was kind of stammering about how I gave what the ticket had when the husband walked up, looking very ashamed, saying, honey, we got what I ordered. We can order another if you want one, but they didn't forget anything. She refused to listen and kept screaming. Eventually, being the shook 15-year-old I was, I said, I'm sorry, I'll get you that second chili dog. I walked over to the station, and as I was making the chili dog, I noticed something. Due to the constantly open drive-thru window, flies got in a lot. And in the pickles bin, there were 3 flies. I couldn't help myself. While scooping up the pickles for her chili dog, I just happened to scoop up all 3 of those flies with them straight into her food. I closed the bun and handed it to the steaming expletive of a woman with a smile. I'm so sorry about that. Please enjoy. It's on us. I sat at the order window and watched her smugly eat the whole thing, and I couldn't be happier about it with each bite. I never got caught. Story 23. Years ago, I worked at a dine-in, carry-out pizza chain. Some shifts I waited tables, some I cooked. During one particular shift, I was a cook, and there was this waiter who let his table's pizza sit until they were completely done with the breadsticks. Breadsticks always went in the oven first before the pizza was made, so the customer had time to enjoy them before their pizza arrived. At this particular time, most of the local restaurants had an issue with small roaches. As one could imagine, this issue and letting food sit out did not mix well. The waiter finally picked up this particular pie and served it. The first slices for the table were placed on the plates by the waitstaff. One customer took a bite that was a bit buggy. The waiter tried to blame me for his screw-up. Story 24. In my decade in the industry, I've not seen one customer's food mess with. However, I had a manager come into the kitchen and demand a spicy pasta for his dinner immediately in the middle of the biggest disaster of a service we had experienced. He spent the last 3 hours in his office whilst we went down like a sack of potatoes, ignoring requests for help, then demanded a meal. I simply said, I need about 30 minutes to clear all these tables, and he responded with, just get it frickin' done, I don't have all night. So I put half a container of chili flakes into his pasta. When I got pulled up on it, I stated my reasoning, and the boss turned to him and said something along the lines of, sounds like you had it coming. The manager was fired a few months later for hitting on a staff member. Story 25. I worked with a young woman who told me this story. She worked at a fine dining restaurant here in Pittsburgh. A man at a table with his wife was being a huge schmuck. He ordered a bottle of wine. My friend brought it over to do the presentation, which includes pouring a small sample for the customer. Well, he slugs it back, and some of it rolls down his chin. He grabs my friend's sleeve and uses it to wipe his mouth. She goes back to the kitchen in tears. The cooks ask her what happened. They say, okay, when his order comes up, let us know. Bet. The man orders a steak. They throw the raw steak down the back steps that led to the dry storage. It was covered in all kinds of filth. They cooked it up for him. He ate every single bite. Story 26. Oh, this actually isn't very common at all. Malicious compliance is a much more common scenario, particularly when customers are schmucks. But I have seen coworkers cut corners before. I'm working in fast food right now and have been for the last 2.5 years. In that time, I've seen a chocolate shake get whipped cream blended into the shake itself after accidentally putting whipped cream on a no-whip shake. I had the employee remake it out of a health concern because I wasn't sure if it was a lactose problem. Looking back though, milkshake, but I'd probably do it again. Bags drop with food inside and handed out anyway because the food was fine. Customers being given the wrong sandwiches on purpose because, quote, the difference between a cheeseburger and double cheeseburger isn't that big, and this is what we already have made. Fries that nobody could put an age on being given out. Likewise, nobody in the kitchen using the proper timers, so parking people in drive-thru on purpose to make them wait because they're schmucks. This isn't common, so please pull forward if you're asked to. Making lower quality items for people we don't like. Less ice cream than normal, sloppily put together drinks, etc. Kitchen staff assembling sandwiches without gloves. A manager once dropped a frozen hash brown on the floor, picked it up, cooked it, and served it. But it's really not very common. I've never seen anyone hazard the food. As I said, malicious compliance is much more common, especially if you say extra, extra, extra. That's annoying. We know what extra means. As a result, you might get more than you bargained for. A woman at my store once got an entire little bucket of onions on her burger because of how many times she stressed extra, 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 extra. A kid took her very seriously, but really, it's ever only really petty things like that. We don't usually want to lose our jobs. Story 27. I was bussing tables when I heard, "Hey kid," followed by loud snapping all the way across the restaurant. I walked over and said, "Yes, what can I get?" "Fork," he interrupted. Okay, cool. I got his fork. I bring it to him and, "You speak English, boy? There's 2 of us eating here. Bring 2 forks," he said. "You said fork, not forks, but here you go." "That's why you Chinese don't deserve any tips. Always give an attitude," he snaps back loud enough for surrounding tables to hear. Flustered, I walked to the back alley for a quick smoke and told one of the cooks about that schmuck at table 16. We both walked in and I saw him hack the nastiest thing straight into a pot. As I watched in awe, the cook mixed it up, plated it, and rang the bell. "Table 16, the cook says with a smile. Story 28. I worked at a high-end steakhouse. The dirty secret is many of their steaks were frozen and thawed out at the restaurant. Honestly, this didn't bother me. Anyway, that's not the story. It was the last hour or so of the night. The cooks were getting steaks out for the next day to be thawed. One of the steaks fell on the ground. Of course, this couldn't be saved, but since it was frozen and not hurting anything, it was just left until they could get to it. So for most of that last hour, this filet mignon was being kicked around like a hockey puck. It was defrosting and starting to stick and honestly was gross, but stuff had to get done and it would be cleaned up when they mopped the floor. 5 minutes before closing, this horrible woman comes in and demands she be seated and wants a filet. So of course, she gets that filet. It's picked up, washed off, and put in the rapid defroster, microwave, and then thrown on the grill till done. Everyone just watched and tried to keep a straight face. She left after drinking a bunch of wine and taking her own sweet time to finish about 1.5 hours after closing. She didn't leave a tip, paid cash, and literally paid with exact change. Anyway, yeah, don't anger the cooks. Story 29. When I worked in fast food, some of us would take a few bites of our own food, nuggets, sandwiches, salads, etc., whenever it was quiet. I worked the front counter, taking orders and bagging them too. Well, one day, a lady comes in and orders a chicken sandwich. I saw our sandwich maker had a sandwich wrap at her station, so I bagged it and the lady was on her way. About 40 minutes later, she comes back and says, "I usually don't mind if it's a slight error, but this was too much." She pulls out a sandwich with a whole bite taken out of it. I apologize and get her a new sandwich that hasn't been partially consumed. Turns out the sandwich maker was eating a sandwich whenever it was slow and she had left it where we pick up sandwiches for to-go orders. She got so busy she hadn't even noticed her sandwich was gone. Thankfully, the lady was incredibly sweet about it and understood. Anybody else would have chewed us up, understandably so. Story 30. The shift manager of my burger restaurant was showing me how to make our enormous weekly batch of very popular tartare sauce on a Sunday night after closing. It is made in a huge Rubbermaid garbage can and stored in the walk-in. He dumps in huge portions of mayo, spices, etc. and starts stirring it with a huge plastic paddle. When it's all ready, we try to get the lid on, but there's a lot of pressure. He finally puts his foot on top to press it down and seal it. Well, the lid capsizes and his entire leg goes straight to the bottom of the garbage can. I help him pull his leg out into our deep sink, hose him off, and we stare at the garbage can. He quietly put the lid on the top, slides it into the fridge, and we never spoke about it again. Story 31. Taco Bell, at the beginning of their being open all night, a guy came back through the drive-thru and tossed his bean burrito at me, claiming it was wrong. It was very much right, so I threw it back into his car. Pizza Hut customers allergic to pork ordering a meat lovers, we'd give them a beef pizza and then they'd get all angry. I'd tell them I couldn't serve them pork products if they were allergic to pork. That's pepperoni, sausage, Italian sausage, and bacon. I'd also need to clean the make table before their pizza could be made. We'd also put in their customer info that they were allergic to pork. I did see a few floor pizzas get made for free pizza scammers, and we gave out a phone intimacy number instead of the complaint line. They were a transposition away. Story 32. I worked branch shifts for a diner for a number of years and my policy was simple. I matched the energy I received from a customer. I wanted every interaction to be a positive one, but I was not above some petty nonsense if my customers were acting like toddlers. One time, a guy comes in during the middle of Sunday brunch. I inform him we have a wait list for dining in, but our turns are pretty fast and we could have him seated in about 15 minutes. He proceeds to order his food to go, then skips the wait list and seats himself a table outside, as if I won't understand what he's up to. I told him that's not how it works and he would need to wait like everyone else if he wanted to dine. He looks me straight in the eye and says he's lived in this neighborhood for 16 years and won't be frickin' moving for anyone. Nothing I can really do about that. Well, his order comes up on the pass and it's marked to go, no table number. My coworkers don't know who it belongs to and I choose to remain silent on the matter. So it sits there for 30 minutes. Finally, he comes back huffing and puffing, suddenly realizing that I've not brought him his food based on his behavior. He proceeds to grab me by my shirt and get right up in my face and threaten me. Admittedly, I am all bark and no bite. I'm shaking, I'm terrified. Luckily, I have a friend sitting at the counter just next to the interaction. A 6'5", 250-pound tank of a man. My friend puts down his fork, stands up, lifts this guy up by the scruff of the neck and throws him out on the street. I won't tamper with your food, but if you're acting like a schmuck, you're not going to eat. A friendly reminder to all my service industry friends, you have the right to refuse service. Just make sure you have a contingency plan should the customer become violent. I looked out that day. Story 33. I did this and I can't explain how or why. I wasn't intoxicated or spiked. Sometimes I would smoke a bit at the end of the shift before cleaning, but that's it. I must have just been burnt out. Anyway, I sent out a burger to a customer without a meat patty. It was the only time I had done it, but I guess it can happen, and they also wanted pickles or something else added, so I fixed the order and sent it out. The car hop I worked at Sonic came back so disappointed and upset. I had added pickles or whatever, but not the meat, and the customer just drove off. I sent out a burger with no meat twice. I took my job seriously, would never purposely mess up an order, and would go out of my way to make it right. I still think about this from time to time. Story 34. I was on Salad Station, hanging out with the grill and fry folks as we were closing. The owner walks in and tells us we're taking 2 more orders. We'd been closed for 20 minutes. Long story short, they ordered something that was already trashed, retrieved, and prepared by the grill dudes. I shook my head to my station, had a laugh, and just made sure to be courteous at restaurants. When people say they are allergic to truffles, we just omit all the truffles we have on the dishes. Same thing with shellfish allergies, no uni, sea urchin for you. The amount of people that ask for it after telling us they were allergic blows my mind. Screw you and your fake allergies. And to the stuff about messing with the food, I don't think any self-respecting cook would do that to something they labored over. That just shows you don't have love for what you're doing or the produce they're using. Story 35. I hate making nachos. When someone orders nachos at my work, I have to basically drop everything else I'm doing and try to make this god-awful mountain of chips stand up, heat it evenly without burning it so I can't turn away from it, and somehow get all the toppings on it without making a huge mess, even though they all just fall off. It's annoying. Anyway, they come with black beans on them for color more than flavor. They don't taste like much, just barely seasoned black beans. The more annoyed I get with making nachos, the more black beans I put on, making less room for the other, better toppings. If there's a decent hole between some of the chips, I will pour some beans down that bad boy. It makes me genuinely feel better to imagine someone eating the first layer of chips and when they get to the middle, there being a bunch of beans inside. I think, surprise beans is hilarious. Sometimes when servers irritate me, I pelt them with the beans. I do this stuff because it makes me feel better without actually causing an issue or making the food unsafe. It's just some extra beanage. Beans are cheap and we always have way too many cooked on hand, so they go bad before we use them all, so I don't worry about wasting them. Story 36. A lot of movies and TV shows overplay the whole restaurant staff as people who will do disgusting things to food. While it does happen, it's extremely rare, and I've personally never seen anything gross. What I do see is what I like to call exaggerated cooking. Say, it's busy, or a server comes back and complains about how someone is a schmuck or creepy or whatever. If that person special orders food like extra well done, extra spicy, or really hot, They will get the absolute extremes of those spectrums. Extra well done steak, it's getting cooked past shoe leather. Extra spicy wings, it's gonna be so spicy you'll need a pitcher of water just for one wing. You want your tacos to be extra hot. Well, you didn't specify if you meant temperatures or spiciness, so you're getting diced habaneros and taco meat nuked for 5 minutes to ensure we covered our bases. A big key for restaurants, don't be rude to servers. They like to overshare everything with the kitchen. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. I'll catch you in that video.